Hello and welcome to the Unapologetic Moms Club podcast. I'm your host, Janine McKinnon, manifesting maven, lunar ritualist, nature lover, sex magic expert, and empowering sex, love, and relationship coach. If you'd like, you can think of me as your witchy bestie who calls you out on your self-deprecating cycles while encouraging you to align with your highest self. And I'm on a mission to help women return to the wisdom of their bodies and nature and to embrace their inner power. If you're a woo-woo mom craving more self-love, confidence, fulfillment, and passion in your life, you're in the right place. The Unapologetic Moms Club podcast is here to help moms like you to thrive as your most radiant and happy self. Here you can find inspiration and tools taken from my one-on-one coaching sessions and group experiences to support you in your journey. We'll cover things like societal conditioning, inner child healing, pleasure practices, manifestation techniques, approachable rituals, and all around women's empowerment. My goal is to shift your perspective and to give you actionable takeaways so you can walk away from these episodes feeling inspired to create a life that ignites your soul. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful we're able to connect in this way, and I can't wait to dig into the contents of this episode with you. Without further ado, let's get into it.
Hello. So today, with it being Valentine's month, I guess you could say, we are going to be talking about self-love. So in terms of Valentine's Day, I'm certainly not the girl. I've never really been the girl that's like all about Valentine's Day. I'm not really one for commercialized, very consumerist holidays that are basically created to get you to buy shit. But at the same time, I love love. And if there is a way to really put forward the message of love and loving yourself and loving your family and your partner and your friends, I'm totally down for that excuse. And with that in mind, I thought it would be a really great opportunity to chat about self-love, because I feel like self-love, like that concept, can be floated around a lot, and it seems like an unrealistic picture, I find, for self-love for a lot of people. I think there is a disconnect between self-love being around the kind of love that you like absolutely love this thing, and there's this excitement and perhaps this honeymoon phase kind of love to it. But I see self-love as being a lot deeper, that has a very strong foundation in acceptance and understanding. And with those two core pieces comes that unconditional, deep love that you have for your children and your partners. And so that's what we are going to be digging into today, and to go a little bit deeper in terms of that understanding and acceptance, because I really do think they're so foundational to be able to love yourself. Like, fully loving yourself means you love and accept your deepest, darkest shadows as well. It's not just loving things when things are good and loving these certain quirks and personality traits of yours. It is full-blown love of all the parts, unconditionally. Those shadows, that dark side. And where I see that understanding and acceptance coming in is, I think the understanding is very logical. That brain side of things, one might say more masculine energy side of things, and that is really important, especially when we bring mom guilt or guilt in general into things, to be able to have understanding for where that comes from or where our feelings come from is so helpful. While at the same time, we need to go deeper in that to actually create that unconditional love, because we may think logically, but our body still might tense up around certain things. And so that's where the true acceptance comes in. And for me, true acceptance comes on a much deeper somatic level. And that's where the more feeling, more flowy, more feminine energy can come into things. And it's really that harmony between the two. Because again, we may think we understand something, think we accept something, but there's still those physical somatic responses that we can have to certain things, which is showing us that deep down at some part of our subconscious or nervous system, there isn't acceptance, there isn't love. And so to really create this full, big picture, unconditional love, I think it's really important to have a balance or harmony between those two pieces. So before we dig even deeper into that, let's talk a little bit about how did we get here? Because unfortunately, it is the common story amongst women, especially in our society, to not feel like they love themselves, to actually have a lot of guilt. I think guilt is so huge. There's mom guilt, which is just so normalized. And I think the normalization of mom guilt is the feeling that we're not enough. Isn't normalizing that super toxic? Because I personally believe that if you're someone who is worrying and thinking about like how you could have done things better for your kids and your family and replaying those different situations in your mind and feeling guilty about them, honestly, you wouldn't do that if you didn't care so deeply. And the fact that you care so much and are trying to do your best to that degree shows me you have absolutely nothing to be guilty enough. You did your best. You are trying so hard to show up for your family. Like, that is enough. And that continuous working on things is enough. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to not do things in an ideal way. We do not need guilt dragging us down. I see guilt as a waste of our time and energy because it is putting our thoughts towards this negative spiral that really pulls us down, drains us down, when we could be taking that exact same time and that exact same energy and using it in a more uplifting, positive, productive way. And of course, there needs to be a balance. Like, we don't want to do total like spiritual bypassing or things like that. There is a time to feel certain negative emotions. I'm all about the shadow work. I fully get that. And the amount that guilt runs through so many women and men, but for this conversation for Unapologetic Moms Club, with that mom guilt, it's not necessary. And the vast majority of that time and energy can be spent towards pumping yourself up, looking to see all of those different wins that you did have during the day, rather than focusing on the negative ones. Because I bet if you were to talk to your kids about how their day was, when you're reflecting on something and feeling guilty about it, I bet that they will find these little pockets, these little glimmers that have so much beauty and so much love in them. And when you focus on this guilt, you close yourself off from that. And so when you can flip around your thinking to find those glimmers, find those celebrations, find that different positive pockets, you go such a way in shifting your mindset, and that plays into the self-love. Now, there's also different things that kind of play a part in this societal conditioning of not loving ourselves. And I think a really huge part of our disconnect from ourselves and having this feeling of guilt or feeling like we need to fix ourselves or change ourselves and not being able to love ourselves as they are actually comes from this deep-rooted consumerism and how we are constantly marketed all of these different flaws and problems. So if you see it on video, I'm like air quoting this, all these different flaws and problems that we have so we can buy their solutions to it. Oh, your skin doesn't look like this airbrushed model. You need to buy these beauty products for it. Or buy these different cosmetic procedures for it. Oh, your size isn't the ideal size. You need to buy these things to fix it, to lose the weight, to look better, to hide your flaws. So there's all of these things constantly being shown to us on TV, on magazines, in stores, movies, so many things. And so all of this is layering these different layers on our subconscious that we are flawed, that we need fixing, that we are not okay as we are. And so if we take on all of these beliefs, which so many of us do, how can we really love ourselves when we feel like we're flawed, feel like we need to be fixed? There is also the comparison trap that plays a huge, huge role in this as well. And in comparing ourselves, we are feeling like we're not enough unless we're like them. They have it better, so we need to have it better. We're wrong. We need to change things if we don't have things like them. And all of these different thoughts. Social media can play such a huge role in this, with scrolling your feed and getting caught up in that comparison game. Oh, their business is in a different level. I wish my business was like that. And so this feeds into that negative thinking, which is very contradictory to actually having that love and acceptance for where you are in your life. Understanding that you are in a place that is so aligned for you and your journey, and it's unfair to compare where you currently are at and say your chapter 14 to someone else's chapter 21. And even if you're both in the same chapter, you have different journeys and paths that brought you there. And this comparison game just really brings you down and pushes against that concept of self-love. And then the other kind of last piece I'd say that's really played a big role in this is mommy martyrdom, and this common narrative again of the self-sacrificing mother and the mom who gives everything to her family, to her kids, to her partner, and has nothing left for herself. And that story in itself, that narrative, is showing that you don't matter, that everyone else matters. And so how can you truly, truly love yourself if you feel like you don't matter? If you feel like you're not worthy? If you feel like you shouldn't be a priority, right? And that's why I think self-love is so important, is because it levels the playing field in our minds. If we see these people, especially when it comes to our family, with our kids and our partners, we have so much love for them, so much unconditional love and support. We want the best for them. We are there for them when they are in their darkest moments, when they've made their mistakes, when they've wronged things in certain ways. We love them. We show up for them. We encourage them. Same thing with our besties, right? We are cheering them on. We are lifting them up when they are down. Yet, in our minds, so many of us do not do this. We kick ourselves when we're down. We don't even pause to celebrate. Because again, it's like we don't focus on that. We focus on those negative things. We don't feel worthy of that prioritization. And so it just perpetuates this cycle. And we deserve so much more to that. And so self-love, like I just touched on, it's that leveling that playing field, and it supports us in showing up in the best way that we can. And what self-love is to me, because I think everyone has their own definition of it. And again, I mentioned how it can be kind of unattainable. And I think there's more of a narrative of that honeymoon, excitable, like love, obsessed, such a big raving fan kind of concept to self-love. But for me, it really is that deeper level. And that includes our deepest, darkest shadows, the worst parts of ourselves. those parts that we might hide or shy away from. This circles into one of my favorite tantric principles that my teacher Layla Martin mentioned at the very beginning of my Vita program back last year, the very beginning of last year, if not 2022 actually. And it is that the greatest transformation comes through the taboo. And that's because when there's this taboo thing, there's this shadowy dark side, this shame, this guilt, this horror in some ways, all of this negative feelings for this taboo side. If we can go through that, seek it out, get really up close and personal with it, bring in that foundation of understanding, and then acceptance, and then love. Talk about a transformation rather than like those more surface level little things that we're like stepping up. And yes, those are great. They help fuel us, help keep us momentum. But when you are going into those deepest, darkest parts and being able to truly meet them and, like I said, understand them, accept them, and bring that unconditional love to those pieces, it is a massive shift. And through that, you become confident, you become empowered, unapologetic in your true authenticity. Because when you fully embody that love for yourself, that acceptance for yourself, it doesn't matter what other people think. They may have their judgments, make their comments, but like, hey, you've already met those sides. You've accepted them. What does it matter what other people think? That's fine. And as you get down the rabbit hole, you really learn more and more that what people say in different comments and things like that and judgments on you are really just projections of their inner world and their inner thoughts and aren't necessarily a reflection of you. But that's a conversation for a whole other episode. I can get into the rabbit hole. But it's just this beautiful way to truly cultivate that confidence, that unapologetic, empowered feeling in your true, authentic being. Fully loving yourself for it, and then being able to cultivate a sense of safety and belonging in that as well is super important. And that goes into Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Safety and belonging are big right on that lower end of the scale, because if we look back to when we were more hunter-gatherer people, if we didn't have belonging and safety, we would be excommunicated, right? Or I guess I should say, if we didn't have belonging, we would be shut out from our tribe. We would not be safe. We would be so much more vulnerable. So these things are very hardwired into our system. And so that's why with a lot of the different work I do with clients and coaching, as well as many of my different meditations and practices that are available on the website, really weave in a core sense of love, safety, and belonging, because they are so important to really cultivate within ourselves, to bring forth that confidence, to really build that relationship with our intuition, understanding these nudges we're having, taking action on them, speaking our truth, showing up unapologetically as who we are. It really is on that foundation of that love, belonging, and acceptance. And so this takes time to cultivate. It really, truly does. And I know personally, like my journey with all of this stuff is growing up as a teen and late 20s. I moved out quite young. When I was 16, I was living on my own, very much a party girl, couch surfing at different times, living out of my car and all these different things. And I had a lot of escapism. There definitely wasn't love for myself. I was looking for validation through other people and other things like that. And then fast forward, tossed into motherhood, dealing with postpartum and really going through that portal of maiden to mother was really tricky. It was really hard to let go of that former version of myself, that freedom that I had. And then come into this like new version of me with what exactly does that look like? Who am I? I have this new body that is certainly not what is looked at as the ideal look when you look at media. And so it was really hard to find that self-love for myself, to love those darker parts that did those different things, put myself in not great situations growing up, because again, I didn't have that self-love. I was looking for connection in all the wrong places, and so it can be hard to love that. And all these things are so deeply, deeply ingrained in ourselves, and so that's why it takes time to move through these. And that's where, again, that harmony between the understanding and that deep acceptance comes into play. Because I think our journey, a lot of our journeys begins with getting in touch with ourselves through journaling and also therapy. And so those bring in a lot of that analytical thinking side of things, where we can really begin to understand ourselves through our awareness, understand why we are the way we are, why we made the choices that we made. And then there's still that hardwired side deep within our bodies, our nervous system, our subconscious. And that's where I like to think of things as not necessarily a hierarchy, because I do think they each have a time and a place, but they have different levels of how deep in the body they go. And so there is, of course, that journaling, that therapy. So again, that very cognitive, very analytical, mental understanding. Then we can take it to meditation, and to really be able to open ourselves up. Meditation is so, so powerful. There's so much amazing research that I'm becoming more and more familiar with in this book. I'm recently reading The Confidence Code. I forget the authors. It's Claire something and another woman. They talk about how they've done brain scans of groups of people, and within just 4 weeks of regular meditation, they've been able to create all of these new neural networks within their brains and change the way their brains work, with being able to calm different more reactive sides and being able to enlarge the cortex, which is more thinking and being able to make decisions that align with yourself. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. I love to nerd out on this sort of thing, but meditation is an amazing pathway to going on a deeper level. Then you can take things even deeper with breath work. Breath work is such a powerful tool, and through the power of breath, we are able to really open up our nervous systems, kind of do a dance depending on the different kind of breathing patterns you're doing between your parasympathetic and your sympathetic nervous system. So between that more on fight or flight reactionary system and the more calming, thoughtful system, you're able to move emotional blockages. So this is where you begin to really see amazingly quick results, actually, sometimes with breath work, in terms of rewiring those somatic impulses that really allow you to rewire that sense of that deep rooted acceptance that is that foundation for that deep, deep self-love. And I actually have an incredible breathwork practice available. And right now I'll get more into it, but they are 33% off for Valentine's. And the self-love embodiment breathwork practice, I believe it's called, is beautiful. It's quite activating at the beginning, and it's very powerful. And you do some different breathwork patterns in it, moving your energy in different ways. And then as you get into it, there's different ways of really breathing the love of the universe back and forth. And then it really weaves in this state of love and belonging and safety and being able to hardwire these things when you're opened up through breath work is so powerful, so potent. You can just, I don't want to say fast forward, but you really excel the speed of your journey, of your transformation when you use these deeper tools, because again, they really get down to that deeper somatic level that is hardwired into us and requires different tools to really make adjustments to it because it's so ingrained in us. And then finally, there are pleasure practices, which take things on an even deeper level, especially when you are able to bring in the five senses into it. And what is so incredible about pleasure practices and using them as a tool for healing and for rewiring your system is because it fully opens up your body like nothing else. Again, you are really opening up both of your parasympathetic and your sympathetic nervous system in this beautiful harmony and dance. You need the sympathetic side to be able to be fully relaxed and open and surrender. Yet you are also having that sympathetic, sorry, I might have mixed up the words. I'm thinking it is a little bit late as I'm recording this, but to make it more simple for you, that harmony between that more relaxed and thinking, and then that fight or flight, that reactionary, which isn't bad. Neither of these sides are bad versus good. They're just different, and they require harmony and a balance. And pleasure practices brings this in such a beautiful, fully opened up, fully alive way. And when you bring in the five senses into it, each sense between seeing, hearing, touch, taste, and smell fires different areas of the brain and puts them all online in different ways. And so it's this open, expansive state that truly opens you up to rewire neural networks, to really create deep somatic and neurological changes in your belief systems, in your sense of safety in certain belief systems, or working through different experiences. And so when you really bring in this love through pleasure practices, it is so powerful in how deeply this rewires. And for me, like my process through my Vita program, it majorly excelled in my capacity for love, for belonging and safety, in my authentic, witchy, shouting about pleasure practices off the rooftops way. That's through doing this work through pleasure practices. And so there's that self-work, breath work, embodiment practice I touched on. And you can even bring pleasure into it. So I've done that before as well. And so it opens you up that much more to be able to truly anchor in these states of love, acceptance, belonging, softness, whatever you are truly seeking. And I have some other beautiful practices as well. So I guess now's a good time to go into the different offers I have available for you. And so with Valentine's, with code LOVE, keeping it simple, with love, you can save 33% off my meditations and practices. So I'm calling it now the unapologetic practices, because they are all about supporting your unapologetic authenticity, empowered sexuality, and effortless manifestation. And so there's a library there. I think it's like getting up to 10 different resources that are available between free to $27. So you can choose a la carte. Honeypot is another beautiful meditation that is great for entry level, and that is now available for free. I've just made that available for you in that way, as a way you can kind of test and taste what these different meditations and practices are like. So I will have the link for you. And then there are the deeper ones. So there is a sexually empowered meditation, which is great for overcoming different shame and embarrassment and shying away from your sexual empowerment. So that's a really great one for anchoring that in. the self-love embodiment practice is really at its core is anchoring in that self-love, belonging, and safety. Such a powerful one. There is yoni breathing, which is another beautiful breathwork practice designed for especially those in mind who have a disconnect with their yoni. Perhaps there's some numbness going on, and it really allows you to build a relationship with your yoni. And through doing this as a regular practice, you begin to feel more and more sensations, begin to really tap into your sexual energy and be able to expand your pleasure capacity. So that is a great one for that as well. And then I could go on and on with all of the different ones we have, but I will mention for those that are really looking to kick things up a notch, there is the Awaken Your Senses pleasure practice. And this is just the juiciest, delightful pleasure practice that fully brings your senses online. We're bringing in essential oils. You're going to be playing certain kind of music while you have the meditation running, feeling your hands, looking in a mirror. And it's so amazing for just rewiring this sexual empowerment and acceptance of who you are. And with that really comes that self-love, that embodiment of your confidence in who you are. So all of those are available. And if you're just like, you know what, I'm all in, Nourish Through Pleasure is also available for you with the 33% off discount as well. Again, that's with code LOVE. I will leave the links for you, and it is also unapologeticmotherhood.com/meditations to make it easy. And Nourish Through Pleasure is just an amazing way to completely upgrade your self-care routine. There are 6 practices and meditations included in it for you, and an amazing journey to truly shift your perspective, rewire your limiting beliefs, going through some shadow work, then fully equipping you with your understanding to understand your sexual life force energy, get set up with your pleasure toolkit, and then really understand the different ways you can incorporate non-sexual and sexual pleasure into your life to really fuel you and nourish you from the inside out. So lots of beautiful, delightful options available for you. I would love to hear from you, so please feel free to message me on Instagram at janine.mckinnon or shoot me an email, janine@unapologeticmotherhood.com. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Where are you on your self-love journey? What did you think of self-love as before? And what do you think about my perspective around it being a lot deeper, more unconditionally loving, and that it truly requires that deep foundation of acceptance and understanding? Is that something you've heard before? How does that resonate with you? Please let me know. I would love to hear from you. Please share this episode if you are liking it and it is resonating with you, to share it with your friends, with your moms, with your sisters, because this is such an important message for us to get out there. We need more women who fully, unconditionally love themselves and are able to feel empowered as their unapologetic, authentic selves. And so you can play a part in that by sharing this episode or any other episodes along with your friends and family. I will leave it at that. Happy Love Month. And I just hope you have a pleasureful, amazing, fantastic day. Until next time, take care.
Thank you so much for joining us inside the Unapologetic Moms Club podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you feel called, I would so appreciate it if you shared about this episode in your stories or left us a review to help us reach more women on their unapologetic mama journey. As a thank you for your support, you'll be entered into our monthly draw for a free laser coaching session. Just tag at janine.mckinnon in your story shares, or leave the rating or review, screenshot it, and email to janine@unapologeticmotherhood.com to be entered. One lucky winner is selected every month for a focus coaching session to support you in working towards your current desires. Until next time, trust your inner wisdom and create some magic.